It's time for Solutions for Seniors to Be here on WATD. Here to help make your golden years golden, offering guidance on programs and services available to you and your loved ones in your retirement. Now, here's your host, Chris Shea.
I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time.
Hopefully you're having a fantastic Sunday, enjoying the weekend. I am looking forward to this half hour. We're going to be speaking with a woman by the name of Phyllis Ayman. She is an ambassador for conscious aging life management, founder of a mindful longevity solutions and #1 selling best author. And she has a proprietary program that she's going to talk about. But as was the case with most people, they can tell their story better than I can. So Phyllis, why don't you introduce yourself to the WATD crowd?
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's so great to be here with you on a Sunday morning. So people may be wondering, what's the ambassador for conscious aging life management?
Yes,
So
they would be wondering what the heck that is.
Correct. So I'm passionate about people living as healthfully and gracefully as they possibly can. And in order to do that, you really have to be mindful and make intentional choices. And that's where the word conscious comes from. It's about managing your life as you continue to age. And so many of us do things, I don't want to say mindlessly, but we do things out of routine. And many of the things we're doing are not the best things for our health and well-being. And we also, fall prey to habits that we've had through the years, or marketing, or whatever it is you want to point to. So I'm really passionate about people embracing strategies for healthy longevity. I call it a longevity wellness action plan. And so I'll tell you how I came to that. So I'm a speech and language pathologist and dementia care specialist by profession. And I've worked, I'd say now, probably about 50,000 hours in over 50 long-term care facilities. So I certainly have seen the other side of that. Not that things don't happen to people when they live in the best way, because
Right.
we all know that does happen. But we could be doing a lot better in terms of the choices that we make for our healthfulness.
Absolutely. I saw something on LinkedIn or Facebook recently that said if it were as easy to get into good shape as it is to get out into bad shape, it would be the world would be a much better place, or something like that. And it's true, right? Like it's so easy to do the things that are not as healthy for you. For example, you're hungry, you want a snack, well, go grab an Oreo, right? It's a whole lot easier than going and grabbing some fruits and vegetables, which are probably healthier for you, but they're also more expensive and they go bad faster. Whereas an Oreo will literally sit in your apartment or your house for ever almost, and it will still be pretty darn good.
So what does that say about the Oreo, right? So maybe if the fruits and vegetables are going to go bad quicker, you should be eating them. So a friend of mine said recently, how many times do you go past the refrigerator before you're full? Which I thought was great. I asked her if I could use that. She said, certainly. The reality is that, and part of how I've come to this, not only working in long-term care facilities, is my father was a diabetic. And he died tragically when I was 17, sitting right next to me.
Ugh.
And it became apparent that though I do have remembrances of him not eating potatoes or not having anything with sugar and a few other things, there were many things he did that he shouldn't have been doing. And I remember my mother telling him that. So I say, he really didn't take personal responsibility for himself. Therefore, he kind of failed us as a family. I mean, I really came to that much later in life, that realization. And, when you talk about Oreos, pre-diabetes is a national actually diabetes is a national epidemic in this country. And
I see the commercials for them all the time on
right,
television.
and obesity obviously is linked to diabetes, and of course
Pressure.
now there's this whole surge of take these medications to help you lose weight because they realize how serious the obesity epidemic is and what it leads to. And there are things people could do without all of that. Like, why would you want to inject something into yourself if you don't need to? And so I do have this proprietary program. I trademarked a word, and the word is empathy, IMPATHY. So it's like
Empathy trademark. That's a big step to trademark something.
correct. And you have to go through a process. And I
A
came
long
up
process.
with
Yeah, I've thought about it.
I came up with the word when I was doing some trainings in a nursing home, actually, and I was doing all these exercises, and someone said, that's like what you're doing is like thinking about empathy for yourself. And I said, wow, that's really what it is. And then I have this program or course, however people want to do it, on the back end of it that addresses all of the areas that really contribute to your well-being.
Yeah. No, so we've talked a little bit in the past, and you know about my Fit to Retire platform. It looks at self-identity, social, health and nutrition, personal relationships, and then money's just the last thing that just pays for your retirement. But one of the four things that I come to before money is health and nutrition. And if you don't have a healthy body and a good
And mine,
mindset, and a
right.
good mindset, and you are not eating well, all the studies show that you're going to precipitously go down and off a cliff, and it'll be 3 to 5 years after your retirement. Which, if you've been working for 40 years and the goal is to retire and live that great life, and next thing you know, you're just sitting on the couch doing nothing but watching Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever the case may be, and you're eating badly. Next thing you know, you are going to have major health problems, and you're probably going to be no longer with us in 3 to 5 years.
Right. I say that a lot of the conditions that we associate with aging or getting older really don't have to be a foregone conclusion. It's really a choice. And people don't really think about that.
Look at all
Not only
the
talking about
places.
diabetes, I'm talking about high blood pressure. Most people probably don't know, you probably know, but most people probably don't know that dehydration leads is a high blood pressure can be a consequence of being dehydrated, and 70% of the people in this country aren't sufficiently hydrated. They don't drink enough water, and it's not about juice and coffee and tea and wine or whatever else you drink. It's not about any of those things. It's really just about water. So it's an all-encompassing program, as you said. There are pillars, and my course or program, or I coach people individually, or I go into businesses. There are pillars and or modalities, whatever you want to call them, that contribute to well-being. And I mean, things like living in gratitude. I mean, it sounds like an easy thing. These things are easy.
Well, no,
They're
no,
simple, but they're
hold on.
not easy.
I was gonna say they're simple but not
But
easy,
they're
and there's
not
a
easy.
definite difference between the two,
Right,
right? I learned that a number of years ago. Is right. So we talk about weight, right?
right,
Losing weight is a very simple thing. You eat less, you exercise more, you're most likely to lose weight. Now, it doesn't work for everybody, but you have
right.
fewer calories, you put out more calories, you will most likely lose weight. It's very simple, but it's not easy because next thing you know, right? So, Sundays, we're now done with football season, but Sundays were football games. And what do you do in front of the TV watching football? You have a whole bunch of snacks, you have some adult beverages, whether they're beer or whatever the case may be. And you overeat and you're like, oh yeah, well, whatever. But if you do that 17, 18, 19 weeks in a row, that
Right.
becomes a habit. and now the 1 pound you gain every week is now 20 pounds in the course of a season.
Right,
And right, like that's just simple math
right.
of
Absolutely. And then the issue is after those however many weeks, right? Now you've developed this habit, as you say. So now whether it's Sunday or Tuesday or Thursday and you're sitting and watching television, what do you grab for? And so there are strategies, and it's really about changing unproductive habits and replacing them with productive habits. And like you said, listen, I tell people, if you want to see how difficult it is to change a habit, just try this. If you put your shoes on the right foot and then the left foot, just think that every day for the next week you're going to put on the left foot instead of the right foot. Or you're going to put on, if you put on your socks before you put on your shoes, instead just put on one sock and one shoe before you do the other. You'll find out that you have to really concentrate on it, really expend a lot of energy to change that habit, and you will, unless you link it with someone else, you more than likely fall back into the routine that you did before because it's all routine behavior.
right. And so it's really challenging to modify behaviors. And I actually wrote an article for a local magazine here in Marshfield about that. And well, we are getting up to a commercial break time. So let's run a couple commercials here, and then we'll get into the New Year's resolution stuff and talk about how that kind of fits in.
Are you fit to retire? I'm Chris Shea, financial advisor with BPS Financial Services in Marshfield. I work with clients to create a 100-day plan that can help get you started so that you can get the most out of your retirement. You've worked your whole life towards your goal of retirement. Let BPS Financial Services put together a plan that will help you enjoy your retirement. Find out how a 100-day plan tailored to you can help you get started in your retirement at fit2retire.com/Chris-Shea. Or call 781-733-5996. That's 781-733-5996. And now for my fast red disclosure, as this has been compliance approved.
Chris Shea is a registered representative offering securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Located at 752 Ocean Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, 02050.
That's 781-733-5996.
All right, welcome back. You heard me talk a little bit about Fit to Retire, and you also heard about the magazine in Marshfield, which is where I actually wrote an article this month in February it talked about New Year's resolutions, which is kind of what we were discussing before the break. But 48% of people want improved fitness, 38% want improved finances, 36% want improved mental health, 34% want to lose weight, 32% want an improved diet, which were all great things. But I thought the biggest thing, and this goes to what you're talking about with, tying shoes and putting shoes on and things. 8% of people would have quit their resolution in January, 22% quit in February, 22% quit in March, which means by the end of March, 52% of people will have quit their New Year's resolutions, which means they weren't really goals. They were just dreams and hopes, as
Right.
opposed to actually making it something you commit to. Whereas if you really want to commit to something, whether it be your health, your finances, or whatever, you've got to make them SMART goals: smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely.
Okay.
If you don't do that, you might as well just not even make something up.
I agree with you. And interesting that you say about it's not a commitment, because after I trademarked this word empathy, I used the letters to create what would be a commitment letter to yourself. So I call it a self-care commitment letter. And the letter is I'm standing for I am. I'm present, active, thankful, healthy. And then you sign it, yours truly, me. And that is your self-care commitment letter to go with this program, because a resolution, like you say, it's kind of just like something you say, but it does come from the word resolve. So are you really resolved to make these changes in your life? And it is a huge commitment. But as James Cleary says in Atomic Habits, small changes can make a huge difference. If you make 1% change a week, by the end of a month, you've made 4%. By the end of the year, right, you've made 48% if you're really committed to that. So it could be a very small change. People think of it as this huge, that, oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds this year. I'm not saying everyone has to lose 50 pounds. But if you think of it, it's something like you say, measurable. This week, I'm going to make some changes in what I eat and intend to lose 2 pounds. That's more realistic.
Yeah. No, and there's a wonderful study done on the 1% that you talked about. There's a British, people can Google it, but if you Google 1% British cycling, there's the British bicycle Olympic group team. They were the worst in the world, and 5 years later they were winning the Olympics and all these other competitions because they got 1% better every single day. And if you do the math on that, that's 365% better, which is 3 times better. I tell my daughter all the time, like, look, I don't expect you to get, she likes to play basketball. I don't expect you to be great and fantastic and infinitely better tomorrow. But if you just go out and dribble the basketball for half an hour, you're going to get 1% better every single day. And at the end of the year, you'll be twice as good, at least, if not 3 times as good. And she kind of rolls her eyes at me, and because I'm her dad and doesn't believe me, but that's another story for another topic of conversation.
Listen, I had a son who was a soccer player, very talented soccer player. So I was having the same conversations about dribbling, about juggling the ball.
Yep.
Right. Same conversation, probably maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But your audience and what you focus on is basically people 50 and above, and we're talking about wellness and self-care. And so many of people 50 and above are also members of the sandwich generation. So they have family responsibilities. They're taking care of an older parent. And most of those times they're also neglecting themselves. And so
absolutely, unfortunately,
really crucial if you want to have the strength and energy and mental fitness and emotional and psychological energy, not only to fulfill your job responsibilities, your family responsibilities, but also possibly an older parent. Really, your self-care is key. And people think that taking care of themselves is selfish. It's actually the best thing you could possibly do, even not only for yourself, but for everyone else and everything else that you have to take care of.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine. She's a therapist, and she likened people to cookie jars. And the analogy was, well, you have a cookie jar on the shelf. If you're the cookie jar and you're the one taking care of everyone reaches in, takes cookies out, and eventually the cookie jar is empty. Well, who the heck fills a cookie jar? Other people don't. You got to fill your own cookie jar.
Correct. And I say I liken the body to a car. I have been for many, many years, and your car can't run without gas. So if you keep running your car and you run out of gas, you're not going anyplace. What happens? The car breaks down, and that's basically essentially the same. It's a different metaphor, same concept.
Yeah, you gotta have those oil changes on occasion.
Right.
You can't just run the car forever without taking care of it. Otherwise, you will run into the ground and destroy it, and then you'll be really upset.
And the funny thing is, people probably take better care of their cars than they do their bodies.
Oh, absolutely. I know plenty of people that will go and they'll spend hours cleaning their car. I'm not a car person, so we got the car guy coming on after this. But it's funny enough. but I am not a car person. I don't like to spend my time detailing cars and things like that. For me, it's a way to get from point A to point B. It's a tool. Um, but I do try and take a little bit better care of my body. I used to be 30 pounds heavier than I am now. And I modified my behavior and the weight came off and I've pretty much kept it mostly off. It's a roller coaster. It's never the same. Rarely is it the same weight for 2 or 3 days in a row. It goes up and down, it fluctuates, but I make a conscious effort to take care of myself a little bit.
So it's interesting what you said. I'm not really a car person that way either. However, when you think about your car and think about your body, right? You wouldn't put antifreeze in your gas tank and you wouldn't put gas in your radiator. But we don't think about what we put into our bodies and what effect that has on our well-being because it's conditioned, what we like, it's what we're used to, it's what we see, whatever it marketing, whatever it is. So if people could embrace that concept and think about themselves differently, but you have to be mindful, and it goes back to the same
Right.
thing. These things are simple, but they're not easy.
Yeah, I think people do think about what they want to put in their body, but they go to the baser level of this tastes good and I'm going to be short term happy,
Right.
as opposed to what are the long term consequences of my choices. Right,
Absolutely.
because it's all about the short term gratification
Right.
and
Absolutely.
simplicity.
Absolutely. So it's something I've really become very, very passionate about. And especially because so many people are in this sandwich generation mode and they're depleted. And
Yeah.
I hate to use a grim statistic, but many people, excuse me, who are caring for an older parent wind up passing away. I'm trying to use a better use of the word, passing away before the person that they're taking care of.
Yeah. So
Because
significant others. Yep.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
And
I'm very passionate about all of this.
yeah, and so I do a presentation for the Alzheimer's Association, and it's about managing money and the challenges around that. But even without looking at the money aspect of it, 44% of caregivers wind up with depression and anxiety for one simple reason. There hasn't been a conversation around what the person with the condition is actually wanting. So people get really have a hard time figuring out if they're doing the right thing because they haven't been told what the person wants, what they haven't been told what their loved one wants. My mother passed away about 3 years ago. And when we finally got in the hospital, we took care of getting her healthy. We got her healthy. She went to a facility to rehab. She never recovered. She didn't participate. And they were like, oh, we can send her back to the hospital and she can get a feeding tube. And I was like, she doesn't want that. I know she doesn't want that. So we're not going to do that. We're going to, she's made her choice and we're going to honor it.
So
It was hard.
interestingly enough, and without getting into this because we don't have that much time, that is another part of what I do is I coach families, help them mediate those conversations, coach them to find the places that they'll need for a loved one in case something happens ahead of the time they need it. Because I tell people, you can't plan when you're in a crisis and something is going to happen. You are going to be in crisis mode, and that's not the time to make the decisions. So, and I tell people they're in the driver's seat. They think they're in need of care for their loved ones, so they're at the mercy of a system. But the reality is, it's a business, and they are really in the driver's seat. So that's really it's kind of another aspect of what I do that's related to all of this, is helping people through those conversations and those decisions.
And I know that I experienced that because when my mother, like I said, was having her health challenges, I didn't realize that I could pick a different hospice person. I was like, okay, you're at the facility. They're telling me what to do, and we're going to stay there. I wish I had known differently.
Correct. So people really do have a choice. And if you have these conversations ahead of time, that would be the best time, because more than likely, as you experienced, and I'm sure many other people have, you get a phone call, something happened, your loved one fell, they were in an accident, this, that, or the other thing, and they're in the hospital. And then after 2 or 3 days, the hospital says, we're going to transfer you to XYZ place. So I really work with families and encourage them to have these conversations. They're not easy ones to have, that in case something happens, what should we do? Is your home accessible for rehab if you fell? If not, and you have to go to a short-term rehab situation, which ones would we want to look at ahead of time? What questions should we ask? But it's not only about asking the right questions and knowing the right answers and what the follow-up would be. And because I've worked in over 50 buildings by now, I have a unique inside perspective that I help people with, because they really are in the driver's seat. It really is a reality. It really is. Places need business.
Yeah. And as I tell people all the time, if you think that healthcare is expensive now, buckle up, because inflation in our country is normally 2.5%, and inflation for healthcare is usually on average about 5.5%. So it's much more expensive and healthcare is just going to get much more expensive over time. And as you mentioned, we are getting to the end of our time here. How would people get in touch with you if you want to learn more about what you do, Phyllis?
Sure. So my people can email me. I'd love people to email me. My email address is Phyllis, and I'll spell that PHYLLIS at Phyllis, and my last name AYMAN, associates with an S.com. Or people could feel free to give me a call. My number is 203-886-6934. And my website is phyllisaymanAssociates.com.
Yep. All right. Well, and you can also probably find her on LinkedIn without too many challenge. So just Phyllis Ayman, LinkedIn. So this has been a fantastic half hour. I hope that you've enjoyed being on, Phyllis. I've enjoyed having you and chatting with you. And I knew this would be fantastic because of our earlier conversations. I knew this would be a great thing, and hopefully people got some good information out of it.
I certainly hope so. And Chris, thanks so much. It was really great spending this time with you on a Sunday morning.
All right. And now we're on to the car guy.
I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time. I'd have said the right thing, but it must have used the wrong line. I've been on the right trip, but I must have used the wrong car. Head is in a bad place, and I wonder what's good for. I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time. My head is in a bad place, but I'm having such a good time. I've been running, trying to get hung up in my mind. Just got to give myself a good talking to this time. Just need a little brain salad surgery. I got to cure my insecurity. But I've been in the wrong place, but it must have been the right time. I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong song. I've been in the right vein, but it seems like a wrong on. I've been in the right world, but it seems like the wrong. and sneaking, peeping, hiding out down the street. See my life shaking with every who I meet. Refried confusion is making itself clear. Wonder which way do I go to get on out of here? Cause I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time. And I done said the right thing, but it must have used the wrong line. I took the right road, but it must have took a wrong